Yeah, got it. That's the cheapest Model 3 I've ever bought. But it should make a good video and nothing else. So let's go and collect this car. So this is a car I've bought from a trade auction. Don't know much about it. I wouldn't normally recommend people buy from trade auctions. It's very risky. But I just thought it'd be a bit of fun because this is the cheapest Model 3 I've ever bought. It's got a bit of mileage on it, but I'm always saying how these cars are really good with mileage. So they last well, they're reliable. So I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and go and buy a high mileage Tesla Model 3 that I've never seen before. I don't know much about it. So fingers crossed it's okay. Like I say, I wouldn't recommend most people to buy from trade auctions because it is a very risky process. You don't really know what you're going to get and you could be left with some big bills. It's not always a bargain. You've got some big fees to pay on top. I get cheaper fees because I'm in the trade, but as a private buyer especially, you pay quite strong fees and it's just too risky, I think, for people to do. Anyway, I've bought this car. Let's go and collect it and see exactly what it's like and see it for the first time. And then what we can do is, you know, go through what we've got for our money, what problems this car might have. We can plug it in and see how good the battery is, for example. So anyway, let's just hit the road and go and collect this car. Okay, so we've just picked it up. I've driven it about 100 meters out of the compound to here, and I'm going to put it on a trailer and take it back to unit. First impressions though, I think it's a good one. I think it's absolutely fine. So there's a few little stone chips across the front, which you'd expect of just over 130,000 miles. What's really good to see is that we've got Michelin tyres all round, so somebody's maintained the car nicely. There's a few curb marks around the wheel rims, but that's okay, they're easy to sort out. What I was keen to see really was how well the interior is worn, because our Tesla Model 3 with 110,000 miles is worn really well, and this one's exactly the same. Look at the seat there, it's absolutely fine. There's no major sort of crease into the seat. The steering wheel is actually in really good condition as well. All the interior, although it's a bit dusty and dirty, it's going to clean up really nicely. There's no cracks in the glass, and walking around the car, it seems to be in really good condition. There are a couple of bits, like a few little stone chips just on the edge here, but actually generally things like road rash down here doesn't seem to be bad at all. It needs a good clean up. It's come with 2 cables are in the boot as well, so that's good. And it looks like there's maybe a bit of water in the back light at some point, so there's got a bit of misting down the bottom here. That was quite popular. But actually, I think it's looking quite good. So I'm going to get this up in a trailer, we'll get it back to our unit, give it a close inspection, and then we'll also plug it in and we'll have a look at battery health, and we can look at how much DC and AC charging this car's ever had in its life and do a battery capacity check as well. So let's get it back, have a closer look at it. Right, okay, well, we've been filming a few little clips, but there was some light flicker and stuff when it was in the bay and on the workshop ramp there. So what I'm going to do now is summarize the story of this car in one last ending. So when it came back, we obviously get it cleaned up, and then we go through a thorough check, as we do with all our cars here, to make sure that everything works in the car, and that mechanically it's all working properly as it would be expected, and it's safe to use and drive and to sell on. Every dealer has that responsibility to do so. So if you're buying a used car, do feel free to ask for their inspection sheets on the cars. Obviously, we know these cars well, been selling hundreds and thousands of them actually over the years. So we've gone over it with a fine-tooth comb, and nothing dramatic to report at all. It looks like the car's been really quite well cared for. So I'm going to go over what we have done to the car, how much we've spent on it. I'll go through what the results of Scan My Tesla, and then I've also got the independent battery health check report from a company called Altilium. So firstly, what have we had to do to the car? Well, as I saw earlier on, it's actually in pretty good condition. A few stone chips, but nothing major. We did refurbish the wheels. These 18-inch wheels are quite easy to refurbish, so you can spend about £50 a wheel having these wheels refurbished and looking as good as new. Nothing really on the bodywork. Like I say, a few little marks, but it's fine. The glass has been fine. We checked the car as well for the under trays at the front, because the earlier under trays are sort of this fibrous material and they can disintegrate and come apart. What's quite good is this one has already had the front under tray replaced with the later sort of thermoplastic one, so that's good. That's a job done. This light at the front here, because this actually has the fog lights as well, because it's a long range, the single motor doesn't have that, was just a little bit disjointed. That's clipped back into place. Job done. We've got to, in fact, we're done later today actually, we're not quite finished with it, but the driver's seat pad sensor needs to be changed. It's a small part, it only costs £10 from Tesla, but it's a very crucial part, because that's the part that knows, for example, when you've got out of the car, it turns the screen off and shuts the car down. If you find yourself getting out of the car and the screen stays on and all the doors are shut, then your driver's seat pad sensor probably needs changing. It's not totally uncommon on a Tesla Model 3, but like I say, the part's £10. It's something you can change yourself. It's a bit fiddly. We've done a few here ourselves now. It takes about 45 minutes, and so that's a cheap, easy fix. We had the tracking done, £50. The wheel alignment was just a little bit out. It sort of bugs me, so had that sorted out as well. That's about it. So we really haven't had to do much on this car. Very cheap spend on this. If this video is going to be dramatic, we've got to take engines out and batteries out. No, it's not that, which is really what I expected, and I've been pleasantly surprised and pleased about the condition of the car. We've cleaned up all the interior, and it looks beautiful. The seats are in lovely condition. The steering wheel's in great condition. The screen's working perfectly, nice and fast and responsive. I've never had a problem with a Tesla Model 3 screen, by the way, in terms of it getting laggy or not working. They've always been great. So, you know, this now is a really good car. And the one other thing that was quite interesting is that the brake discs and pads have actually been changed in this car. Now, that's quite unusual, because you don't use the brakes very much, because the regen braking means you don't need to use the friction brakes, and therefore last for ages. For example, even our Tesla Model 3 that we run in the company, the performance, I've done track days in that, and it's still on original pads and discs, over 100,000 miles, now 110, I think. But this car with 131,000 miles has had recent pads and discs that someone's changed. So possibly they just got a bit pitted and scored because they don't get used much. Whatever reason, I don't know, but it's actually got new pads and discs on it as well. So that's good. And everything works on the car. There's no squeaks, no rattles. It's just great, no problem at all. So next, Scan My Tesla. So Serge plugged the car in, and with Scan My Tesla, we can read a ton of data from the car. It's all kind of numbers, but a few key numbers from that we can't get with the other battery test report. So with Scan My Tesla, for example, we can see how much AC versus DC charging this car has had in its lifetime, as well as how many times these wiper blades have swept the windscreen. So you want to guess how many times these wiper blades have swept this windscreen. Have a guess now. I'll come on to it in a few moments. But this has had a 40-something thousand kilowatt hours of AC charging, but only 1,050 kilowatt hours of DC charging. That's not much at all. Our 110,000 mile Model 3 Performance has had 38,000 kilowatt hours of DC charging, I think it was when we last checked that. And we use that a lot on DC, because I have some free Tesla charging. We make the most of that. We travel around a lot. But this car has covered that mileage in 4 years, really just with home charging by the look of it. So someone's probably just charged overnight, probably on very cheap electricity. If you pay 7 pence per kilowatt hour and you've got an efficient car like a Tesla Model 3, 10,000 miles is only going to cost you probably about £180 on your electric bill for 10,000 miles. So that's the cheap running cost you can get with one of these. So if you're doing 130,000 miles in 4 years, 10,000 miles, £180 or so on electric if you're running those cheap overnight tariffs. Fantastic. And the car's held up really well. Had very little maintenance in its time, other than probably a few sets of tyres. From Scan My Tesla, we worked out it probably had about 90%, 89, 90% battery health in terms of usable capacity. It's just as efficient today, goes just as fast, 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, but you just lose a bit of battery capacity over time. And what we could get from Scan My Tesla as well was these wipers have swept this windscreen 89,000 times. Fairly useless fact, but really quite interesting. And they still work brilliantly. What we did find on the Model S is that you could get the wiper mechanisms come a bit loose in the bonnet, but that doesn't happen with Model 3s. Very reliable cars. They really are proving themselves. So next we went on to do an independent report with Altilium on this battery as well, because this then means we can supply the car with an extended battery warranty, because the Tesla battery warranty expired at 120,000 miles. And of course anyone buying this is always concerned, what's the battery like? Well, that came back, corroborated our previous thoughts at 89% battery. Now, we also worked out from the scan by Tesla it might have lost about 30 miles of range in its time. Well, this also gives us a number as well, which is a typical range when it's new, 304 miles, typical range now, 272. And that also ties in with what the car shows on the screen with its mileage calculator. If you prorate out the percentage versus miles, how many miles are left in the car. So all you tend to lose is a bit of battery capacity as these cars get older. This has lost about 10%, but probably not even that actually, because when it was new, it probably never had 100%. It's probably 97% or something. We found from data over the years, not really from us, but it's becoming more well known as more of these cars are higher mileage now, that you tend to lose a bit of capacity in the first 20,000 miles is the biggest drop, and then it actually steadies out from there on in. Really good. So proof, I put my money where my mouth is. High mileage Model 3s are good. Obviously, you've got to look out for, generally, like any car, how well it's been looked after, but I think they're proving themselves as really capable, and actually, despite what some people used to say, very well made. So, I hope that's been useful and interesting. Maybe we'll cover some similar videos soon. So let me know what you'd like to see in future videos. We'll do our best to accommodate. And we'll see you on the next one soon. So make sure you're subscribed with the bell icon ticked so you get notifications of new videos. See you on the next one.